Talk to us a little bit about the startup of the Alliance, the School Board Member Alliance of Virginia. That started the end of last year of
It did.
2022. Walk us through a little bit of the timetable and kind of how you formed that and some of that process and how long it took, and then kind of how you've gotten launched.
Sure. I was approached by some of the leadership at the Family Foundation, wondering if I had any interest in the formation of an alliance for individual members, and they felt that it was a prime time, that there were there were so many questions coming in to the Family Foundation that had to do with school board issues, that perhaps it was a prime time to start something that could represent individual members, um, and that it's always good to not have monopolies exist in any particular arena. And so I had a conversation with them. Quickly, you became part of the conversation, Noah Webster Education Foundation. We had spoken a lot, although I'm sorry I don't remember where I was when you were in Walmart.
That's all right.
No, I remember. Sorry.
No problem. It was just a little after we did that first summit that you attended.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so really it was, how would we start such a thing? I got some school board member names that had been coming to conferences from both the Family Foundation and Noah Webster.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put together some names and I said, well, I'll just create an email list and put out a Zoom meeting. Let's see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. I put out some email names from multiple foundations and that were really committed to improving education in Virginia because there had been such a loss.
Yeah.
And then this handful of names, maybe 12, 15 names. And I threw that out there in an email and said, hey, let's meet and talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
And hence the very loosely organized Zoom meetings became an every other week event. And we talked, and the consistency of certain people that were always on the calls, showing a lot of passion, like Cheryl, finding an alliance of collaborators that felt very much as she did and didn't want to be alone out there. That's really how it started.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, we started saying, well, what would it take to actually organize to become an association, an alliance? What would we have to do? And then that began some conversations with legal help, how to form a 501c3, what would it take, board members, just the application. And we just kept walking step by step. And then January 12th, we launched. And it was with, I think at the time, 10 board of directors and an executive team there and some advisors to us. And that's how we did it.
Can I add to that, Melvin?
Sure.
This is a little anecdotal story. You might get a kick out of this because you talked about Walmart. So me being the new kid on the block, I have Google. I would do searches and I'd say, let's see, Bedford. I think that those people might be like-minded, close enough to Roanoke, Southwest Virginia. And I would go to their website and I look at their names. I do a search. I do a Facebook search. I do a big search. I read their bios. Not all school board members have their bios on there, by the way. But I read their bios and I'd say, gosh, this guy works for Jersey Mike's. I bet he's a conservative. He's a small business owner. Find his phone number, call him up, and then do one of these Magnum PI investigative questions and try to feel them out to see where they were if we were on the same page. And, that's Chris Daniels, who I ended up coming across. So these are just ways that really you had to be resourceful. And I kept on saying to myself, there's got to be a better way. We need an organization of folks that can come together to share ideas, to make things happen. And so I even called, Jason Muirs' office, okay, you guys gave PAC money out. Who are those people? You've got to have a list. Is there a list? No, I really don't have a list. I was like, okay, it's
Hmm.
crazy. Yeah.
But Cheryl, I think what you just expressed there is, I mean, when you are trying to survive, and when you know there's a better way, you do the things that are out of the box, and
Right.
you look for people who are like-minded,
Mhm.
and what happens is it doesn't take very much searching, and you find these people that are, some of them are maybe hiding under a rock,
Right.
but they're desperate for the sunlight. And when
Yes.
they realize that they can get out from underneath the rock and actually be part of a community that is imploring sunshine to
That's right.
shine into this space,
That's
and
right.
really where we can truly be empowered, and where we truly can make an influence to improve our schools for our communities, it's amazing how many people get on board that. And we're seeing that, you're seeing that happen. Obviously, we're working in some of those same places, just different lanes. and
Yes.
uh, and so for example, the first summit we had a year ago, we had a handful of people, and this last one we had a large room full of them.
Right.
And the truth is, people are afraid, and they've been afraid for a long time. And I understand that.
Hmm.
For me to run was a huge risk. I'm a mom of four. My
Hmm.
husband is a very well respected physician in the community. I was in healthcare. People people support you, but they're a quiet majority, and the minority is so loud and has
Yeah.
filled with such venomous hate that they squelch the voices of so many others. And I saw that time and
Hmm.
time again during my campaign. And I think we really hit a crossroads where people said, I just can't sit down anymore. I need to find my people. So it was almost an act of desperation, to crawl for the light, to find others. And it really has been a
I
blessing. I
think
mean, to get to know, Sherri and Shelly and a bunch of these other folks, truly, it has been a blessing.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's true, Melvin, what you said. I like desperation. Um, you know, I felt very isolated for a while in Suffolk as the attacks came just in such a vicious way. Um, this public censure and rebuke of me. And it was just constant. And then I found one like minded member who said, "Oh, this happened to me too. You're
Hmm.
okay. Hang in
Yeah.
there. My board's done that." And now that's what's aligned us is the just if you have a different opinion and you want to advocate for your constituents, you are really bullied. It exists in our schools. I know our teachers feel bullied, but there's a lot of bullying that goes um, on the school board level as well. And that I too think keeps people from running because a lot of times the bullying is very public and trying to shame a different voice on the board.
So, Sherri, let me get this clear. You're telling me that bullying in our schools is not just limited to the playgrounds and some classrooms?
Oh no.
Okay.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. The bullying goes far and wide, and often it's from a majority and right from the gavel in the chair of school boards who feel have never, who now feel threatened, I am sure. But from the top, from that gavel, there is just the public can see that, I would never want to be on that school board. Look at what they did to Story.
Right.
Mhm.
And luckily, however, they also saw that I was able to open things up. They saw the need, and we had some really good candidates run this time. Where before there was no one even ran for the school board because they didn't even know what they did. They
Mhm.
they only saw them vote 7-0, 7-0, 7-0. Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
and they didn't even know what they did.
So let's shift here for just a second, because we're kind of talking about some of the inner workings in boards and the conflicts and all those kind of things. But for the average person out there, the parent who has kids or the grandparent who has kids in the school and they're just members of the community, and they're concerned because of issues they see happening in their schools. They're
Yes.
concerned about some of the teaching that their kids are getting. They're concerned about some of the policies that have just slid right into our schools. And, this even down to like, keep the secret. These are our secrets and we keep them here
Hmm.
in school. And, the parents have no right to know how their child is feeling or thinking or how we are influencing their kids. And, so let's talk about that because I believe there are many school board members out there who are opposed to those basic ideals. They believe that the parents should have knowledge of what's going in their schools, what their kids are being taught. They shouldn't have to do subpoenas or FOIAs to find out
Right.
what's being taught. And these days being sometimes charged thousands of dollars just to get the information. They're already paying for that education through their tax dollars, and it's like a lot of school board members just feel like these things are wrong, but they don't know where to start to fix them too often. And I
Right.
want to say, look, you start by swimming upstream and start
Hmm.
talking about these issues and learning what kinds of things can be done, not just listen to what you're told can't be done. Because at the end of the day, everybody has a responsibility to serve their constituents. At the end of the
Yes.
day, everybody has a responsibility to make sure that the children in their neighborhood schools are getting the very best the community and the state can give them. And
Yes.
those school board members have a very significant voice in how that happens. Talk to us a little more about that, both of you, either of you.
Can I say something about this? Because this was another light bulb moment for me. The VSBA, who has had the monopoly for years, and now we are the alternative
Yeah.
choice, right? They write our policies. So they take a policy and they write it, and then you pay for the service. Like, I don't know, I think my district pays $17,000 a year. So a new policy comes out from Youngkin's administration, and it's a good policy. It's about sexually explicit content in curriculum. And it says through the how Youngkin listed it, it was great. It was a solid policy. I'm sure you know about it. But I felt like we needed to go above and beyond in that policy. And my school board members sat in that meeting and they said, well, the VSBA did our policy. And I said, well, hold on a second. Youngkin's got a policy, but we can take that policy. They didn't want to. They didn't want to do anything, so they didn't know what they didn't know, and so it
Hmm.
takes a path to educating these school board members. Say, hold on a second, you can do this. It doesn't. You don't have to take their policy. You can. You could adapt it. You can go further, and one example for me was our library policy. I wanted every parent who is the decision maker to get an email notification when their child took a book out from the library. And I brought this up to my superintendent and I said, listen, I really think this should be, when we're rewriting this policy, this should be standard. And he said, well, let me talk to the librarians about this. I thought to myself, you're going to talk to the librarians about this? Why are we bringing the librarians into this? So we kind of went back and forth on this. And then he said to me, well, Cheryl, I think that's government overreach. And I said, excuse me? He said, that's government overreach if we notify our parents. And I said, that doesn't make any sense to me. I said, in fact, that's the opposite of government overreach. That's doing our job. And when we as parents hand you our children and say, please educate them, we do not give up our
Yeah.
parental rights. We are the decision makers. So if my child takes a book out from the library and they're a minor, because all our children at schools are minors, I have every right to be notified. So he wanted it to be an opt-in. So you would opt into this notification process. And I said, well, that's just trash. Who has time to opt in? What if it should be across the board? Every single parent gets notified. And he still was just so resistant to this idea, thinking that parents should not have the authority to know what their kids are doing. And at the end of the day, he did end up calling the librarian, the head librarian, and she said, oh, I have no problem with that. So when he called me back, I said, let me ask you a question. I said, this is where I think we differ. I tell you that your board told you what we think is a good idea. Like, this is just common sense to me. Why did you feel the need to go and ask the chief librarian or whoever she is? So I just think that sometimes they have good input. I said, but I'm the decision maker. She's not if she wants to have input after we make the decision, that's fine. But in order for us to make the decision, I don't need her input. I'm making the decision for my constituents. And that's where the divide is. People they don't get that. So if they could just understand that you, as a school board member, have authority, you have the right to listen to your constituents. Your constituents should be coming to you so that you can represent the constituents. That's what's empowering, but that's just not what's happening.
Interesting.
It's by design, I think.
Of course. Yeah.
I would say that, so hence we have the School Board Member Alliance.
Mm-hmm.
And we do have principles that we have decided that we agreed on. And we did this prior to forming the alliance. And one is for parents. We believe and we want to empower school board members to consider parents first and listen to parents. We all strongly feel that parents do not, as Cheryl said, parents do not give up their rights over their children by sending them to public education. Parents come first. Parents are foundational to raising their children. And so we would be training and having these collaboration talks and so on with school board members to say, when you look at making policy, think about engaging the parents, having work sessions that include parents. And we don't have to alienate any professionals. They can be part of the conversation. But parents, we cannot leave parents out of the picture. We cannot feel that someone's professionalism, and I'm glad your librarian said that, Cheryl, but it was really fought hard in this past legislative session, that the professionalism of a librarian overrode parents' rights to know. And I don't think that's true. Right. I think parents come first, and our alliance puts parents first, and would be advocating for school board members to govern in such a way and write policy where parents' rights were not trampled on. And I think that goes with the Virginia State Constitution and the U.S. Constitution. It guarantees that parents have full authority over the education and the raising of their children. And so we want to have governance that aligns with those constitutions. To me, that's common sense. But right now we're fighting for some common sense principles where parents continue to have ownership, loving, caring, relationships, and really the decision-making power of their own children. And I think that's one of our guiding principles.
So you made me think of something, and it's something that someone said to me very early on in my campaign. He said, don't forget public schools were built for children and not for teachers. We didn't build public schools so teachers could teach or be professionals. We built public schools to teach our children. And who produces those children are the parents, not the teachers or the professionals. They absolutely, foundationally have the decision making. And I don't know where we got lost in that process. I don't know when anybody decided that our teachers or the administration or the staff take ownership of our children. It continues to blow my mind that this is, even a thought.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. The state does not own the kids, neither do the
Mhm.
state schools. That's the all the foundational laws, our Constitution, even Supreme Court decisions, we
Yes,
all go back to the thing that the kids belong to the parents, and the parents
that's
have
right.
not only the opportunity but the responsibility to make the decisions regarding their children and their upbringing,
Right.
including their education and so forth. So let's kind of start wrapping up here. There may be some school board members that hear this. There may be parents that hear this and they say, I want to tell my school board member about this new alliance. So specific, I know this is a very young organization. You're just getting started, but what do you do, and what are some of your immediate goals as you are kind of coalescing here?
Right. Well, I think we've certainly talked about knowledge. You don't know what you don't know, so you have
Yeah.
to start knowing. And this past summit that we were, worked with you and the Noah Webster Education Foundation was just tremendous in designing this summit that was geared towards educating school board members.
Yes.
And education was founded on the principles, the Constitution, it was founded on the code. And I think every workshop was focused on what school board members can do to make their school districts better and focus on student achievement.
Hmm.
And so that's the number one goal is we want to provide solid knowledge and professional development. So school board members feel empowered to make changes that are necessary. So
Yep.
they know they have a right to see curriculum.
Yep.
And so I think education is number one. We're going to do that through newsletters and put out, and so people know what's going on at the VDOE, know when the next new trainings are. So we're going to produce that kind of information on a regular basis. We have a website that is mysbma.org. And that is a way we communicate with one another, and we put out events that are coming up. And we certainly intend to have regional events, bring school board members together and discuss these kind of things, like Cheryl said, to bounce ideas off of each other.
Hmm.
What is working in your district? What's a great curriculum to have? What's a not so great curriculum? We've had this curriculum for 5 years and it's not working.
Yeah.
Um, you know, we are responsible for those things according to law
Right.
and to oversee them. And if something isn't working, it is inherent upon us to expect some changes to occur. We don't have to choose it, but we certainly can expect to be brought some choices for change. And
Hmm.
I think that's what we've been missing. So those are the kinds of things. And then legal, I think, let me put in that it's very important that we have some legal advice available to school board members, because very often they are attacked, they're threatened
Yep.
if they do something different, and they have to know that they have to have some legal assurances.
Hmm.
And that's been very important in this beginning of our young association.
That's excellent. Well, I know that there are a lot of plans and a lot of things that are being worked on and developed, but you got to start where you are and go from there.
Right.
And so I really appreciate you ladies both for your involvement and all the members that are getting engaged in that. I believe it's a very positive thing for our children, for our families, for our communities, and really for the Commonwealth. Let me just kind of with this. Um, as we think about what's starting to happen here, are you of the opinion that there's a hunger for this all across this country, that there are in every state that they're
Yes.
grappling with the same issues, and and people and school board members need to be resourced and empowered so that they can get out from under the rock and get out of a box and really start doing the things that are necessary to make real positive changes for our schools.
Absolutely. Yes. Every state has this very powerful school board union that they are under. And
Yeah.
it is a monopoly in so many states for school board members. Our alliance, they are school boards. You have to either all join, you're all in, or not. And it gave me no autonomy and certainly no voice. And so any state could initiate something like ours to give school board members, individual members, an alliance. And I'd really, I recommend that happen because it's been so beneficial already.
Sure.
We've had so much support at every level. To be able to align with people that have common sense values and want to focus on student achievement. I think that's another thing that has come through this alliance is the focus just hasn't been on student achievement. And we must focus on this going forward.
That's the baseline job, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
And hiding scores is not, not allowing school board members to see scores. I can't tell you how many times my superintendent told me he wouldn't send me student scores.
Well, yeah.
That's
I've
just
had to
crazy.
ask for them. Okay, so I have this data. I see where you've kind of skewed the data. Could you provide me with the data set so I can actually look at the data? Because your interpretation of the data and mine is probably going to be a little bit different. No, I agree with Sherri. I'm just waiting for that first phone call, Melvin, that says, hey, we're ready to do this in Pennsylvania. We're ready to do this in Texas. Now, I think, what do we have? Arizona has their own organization, perhaps?
Has something like
similar.
us,
It's
yes.
not the same name.
Something
And
similar.
maybe Kansas or Arkansas? I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I don't think anything exactly like ours, but they're heading. They have some policy-driven associations that are trying to, get to this point, I think, for school board members. I know in Michigan, there's some people that are really looking to form a school board member alliance. So they're out there.
And you know what? I think through all of the misdirection and the crazy that we've seen in the past so many years, I always thought to myself, there's going to come a time when we have to have an alternate universe. And that's what we're offering, is an alternative, a choice, so that there's not one. And even on dating websites nowadays, I mean, there's the right stuff dating website for people who think this way versus another way. And really, you have to have a place to go for support. And because otherwise you just feel like you're floundering. So to be able to offer this organization to other school board members who can come to us, and we can, like I said before, galvanize to make our push for common sense policies, common sense education, and really fight for our students and put students first is really the ultimate goal, I think.
Well, ladies, this has been very interesting, very informative. And so for those who are wanting to learn more, they can find it at mysbma dot, is that a com? Org. Okay. mysbma.org.
And there's a very easy pull down bar, and it says contact us, and it's very easy to do. And we're very responsive, and we certainly want to encourage any alliance of school board members that feel that they are overrun and even attacked. We want to encourage them. Reach out to us. We'll give you some, warm fellowship for a while and help you figure out a way to get started in your own state.
And Sherri, we should mention that past school board members can join our alliance, candidates who are running for school board membership, and of course, current school board members.
Thank you, Cheryl. Yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the good work you're doing. We appreciate you spending some time with us today. And
thank you, Melvin. Thank you so much.
And if anybody is interested in supporting us too, we should put a plug in for that.
Well, absolutely. Why not? Shamelessly.
Right. Shameless plug. Yeah, Melvin, thank you for all your support. Noah Webster Foundation is fantastic, and it's been a pleasure to get to know you as well.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies. And again, I just want to encourage those that are listening. You want to learn more, go check out the website, reach out to them. That's just getting started, but it's a great idea. And there's a great network that's growing. I've been
Yes.
working with them some, and it's very exciting. I think the possibilities are huge. The bottom line is there are many good things going on in education in this Commonwealth and across the nation, but there are some very, very broken things.
Yes.
I am convinced that the most empowered people to bring substantive change to our schools are our school board members.
I agree.
But they need to be empowered. They need to be well informed. They need to know the law, not just what an attorney says, but they really need to understand the laws they are supposed to operate under and get good guidance from attorneys as well. And then take real leadership, give great oversight of our schools. And I am convinced, and I just have to say this, I'm convinced that so many problems happen in our schools because the unions and associations kind of control, and there's so many things are driven by agenda. We are facing a major teacher shortage in our nation today. All across the country, school teachers are quitting by the droves. Many times it's because this classroom and the schools have literally become chaos, and there's no longer any opportunity. I mean, it's all swimming upstream, and they want to teach these kids. They love these kids, but when they have no ability, no empowerment too often to do their jobs the way that they need to and know they can, people have been teaching for some time. It's a whole different world 10 or 20 years ago than from what they're facing today. And I lay a lot of the fault of that at the school board members and the associations that manipulate them. And so I just really encourage people to stand up. Let's join arm in arm across our communities. It's for our country. It's for our children. And let's do this.
Melvin, you could have a whole nother podcast on the disciplinary issues that are happening in schools and why teachers are leaving the classroom. Good teachers that are leaving because they do not feel supported, and they're being bullied as well.
Stay tuned. Those podcasts are coming up. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Melvin.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.